Hyper-V, how to install it, how you get it going, that's the easy part. How to install it using nested virtualization on a virtual machine, that's not so easy. I'm going to show you how to do just that and more coming up now. Hello everybody, my name's Adam Gordon, an edutainer here at IT Pro TV, coming at you with another fun and exciting conversation about how you can optimize your Windows Server experience. Remember, you could check out our YouTube channel and subscribe for this, as well as all of our conversations around this topic. And if you want more in-depth information about Microsoft or any of the areas that we focus on at IT Pro TV, well, just come check us out directly, and we'll go as in-depth as you want to go, and we'll spend as much time with you as we need to. We're going to be talking about how to install Hyper-V. But hold on, it's not quite the conversation you're thinking we're going to have. Installing Hyper-V, not that hard. Most people can do that with no trouble. Installing Hyper-V inside of a virtual Windows server that's going to become your host to host virtual machines, but it's already virtualized itself. Now that might be something cool, and that is what we call nested virtualization. And installing Hyper-V inside of and on a virtual server 2022 VM to then use it to create virtual machines is actually a lot easier than you may think it is, but you got to know the tricks and you got to know how to get the job done. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. We're going to start on Windows 11, believe it or not. You may be saying, Windows 11? This is supposed to be about installing Hyper-V on server, Adam. Well, you're right. But I run Server 2022 as a virtual machine on top of my Windows 11 environment, and I've got that VM set up. And we're going to show you how to install and configure Hyper-V there, but we got to start using Windows 11 or Windows 10 or wherever you're creating and running your virtual machines to create the capability for the nested virtualization. Now, this is specific to Windows and specific to how Microsoft supports virtualization. If you're running virtualization on VMware ESXi, or you're running it on Oracle or anywhere else, there's an equivalent path to use nested virtualization, but it will vary, and you're going to have to figure out from the vendor documentation how to do the initial steps that I'm going to show you here. Now, I'm using Windows 11. In order to be able to enable virtualization, specifically nested virtualization support, I've got to use PowerShell, and I've got to fire off 2 PowerShell commandlets to turn on and enable certain functionality in the installation of Hyper-V in Windows 11 that will then allow me to support virtualization in the nested environment using Hyper-V and using the Server 2022 virtual machine to install a secondary instance of Hyper-V there. So let me show you what those PowerShell commandlets look like. Let me quickly explain to you why they're important, and then we'll go ahead and we'll actually get into the installation of Hyper-V. Now, I'm in PowerShell. I'm using one of the more recent versions of PowerShell, version 7.1.3, I believe, and I've already typed in and executed the 2 commandlets that I need. I've broken them out into Notepad. I'll show them to you separately so you can easily see what they are. I'm just going to point them out here. Set VM processor is the commandlet we use first. I'll explain what that does in a minute. Once that is successful, we then use the get VM network adapter commandlet. We target the name of the virtual machine in question. I'll show you where to find that. And then we pipe that to a second commandlet, set VM network adapter, and we use a specific parameter, in this case MAC address spoofing, and we provide a value that turns that on. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at exactly what those commandlets do. Got them here, so they're a little bit easier to work with and see. The set VM processor commandlet allows me to specify that the VM processor is going to be set and turned on to enable and expose virtualization extensions to support nested virtualization, but only for the targeted virtual machine that I want to work with. So in other words, this commandlet is instance specific, and we must use a parameter. Parameter is called VM name, and that parameter, let me highlight that, there we go. VM name simply tells the set VM processor commandlet, hey, turn on and expose these virtualization extensions, but only for the following virtual machine. Now, this would normally be a variable. We would have 2 parentheses or brackets open with nothing there, and we would insert whatever the name of the virtual machine is we want to target. In this case, my virtual machine is called WinSVR 2022. I know that because I can go to Hyper-V on my Windows 11 system, as I'm doing here. And I can see that that virtual machine is already created. It's running, and I have it up and running. I simply grab the name of that VM, and I insert it into my PowerShell commandlet. Now, this VM is a VM of configuration type version 10.0, the newest virtualization capabilities that are supported in Hyper-V. And so I have what I need with this virtual machine. It's already got an operating system installed and configured. It looks just like this because this is what we're going to use to do our demo in just a minute. So it's up and running. Everything is good. But there's a little gotcha here. I have to run these two PowerShell commandlets while the virtual machine is turned off, or this will not work. So I've done that ahead of time. You want to make sure you run them with the virtual machine turned off. And then once you're done, enable the virtual machine, turn it on, and we'll be good to go. So we're using the name, VM name parameter, and then we're using the expose virtualization extensions parameter and a PowerShell $true value statement, which says, yes, enable the expose virtualization extensions capability. $false would be turn that off. So the first commandlet enables these capabilities on a targeted individual virtual machine. The next commandlet, get VM network adapter, get the current virtual machine adapter for the VM name parameter and the value that we provide, in this case, the same value for the virtual machine named up above. Get means go grab the existing configuration in PowerShell and make it available so I can make choices or work with it. So this initial part of the command syntax right here gets the virtual machine network adapter configuration for the virtual machine named WinServer 2022, loads it into memory, and then we use something very powerful in PowerShell called the pipe. And the pipe allows me to take whatever is on the left and the output of that and move it to the right of the pipe and use it as the input for whatever commandlet comes next. In other words, I'm taking everything I do right here, loading it in memory, and then I'm giving it to the set network VM network adapter commandlet to use. So I'm giving it the current configuration, and I'm saying, hey, I want you to modify that current configuration by using the set VM network adapter commandlet. MAC address spoofing is the parameter. I want you to, in this case, turn on MAC address spoofing. It's turned off by default. And by doing so, I'm going to allow something very important for virtual machines once I install Hyper-V. I'm going to be able to allow them to bind to the network switch that is created in the host and have a secondary capability to move traffic through the host network switch as well as through the virtual machine and its network adapter, so we can connect to the outside world and can actually act as a normal machine would. So this second commandlet allows the virtual machine to work and to operate in that nested environment and to behave as if it is normal and sitting racked and stacked in our data center, and it doesn't know the difference. So with these two commandlets together, remember, virtual machine must be turned off as you execute these commandlets. Everything is set, and the stage is ready for us to now actually go and enable Hyper-V. And we're going to go ahead and do that right now. We're going to go into our virtual machine. Let me just bring that up. There we go. And we're going to go ahead, load our server manager up. It's already up and running. If you're not familiar with how to get there, we can go to the Start menu. We can go to our navigation area right here at the upper left-hand corner. As you can see up under Windows Server, the tile for Server Manager is going to be pinned there. You can load that up if you need to. And what we're going to do is install or add a feature or role for Hyper-V. It's not currently installed on the system, so it's easy to do. Go to our Manage area right over here. And we're going to load up or grab that opportunity to load up a role or a feature from our shortcut menu. And when we do that, we'll get our little wizard here. We just bring this down and put this nice and centered for us. We could skip over the Before You Begin screen. Really nothing of value that we need to know there, just some guidance from Microsoft. You can read through that at any point. We're then going to select our installation type. In this case, we're going to go with the default of role-based or feature-based installation, allowing us to add and configure role services, features, etc. Hyper-V is going to be a role feature, a role service, and we'll install it from there. I also have the option to enable remote desktop services and configure it if I choose to, enabling remote access to the system and the provisioning of resources for remote users. Up to me. We'll accept our default. We then are asked to select our destination server. The default is to select from the list down below what's called the server pool. local machine is listed and highlighted, so I'll be able to operate on the server, in this case, the Server 2022 virtual machine I'm running. If I have more than one server listed, I just have to pay attention to make sure I know which server or servers I want to operate on and then choose the appropriate machine. And I have an option there to select a virtual hard disk and configure that if I choose to. I can select that. There's some additional steps I'd have to go through to work with it. And I do need to provide a path to where that virtual hard disk, that .vhd or VHDX hard drive will be found. And I have to be aware of that. Allowing me to pre-configure these settings in the VHD or VHDX file means when I attach and use that hard drive, it'll come up already installed and ready to go. So it's a nice capability, but we're going to stick with configuring the local machine we're working on in real time. I'm going to highlight that and click Next. I then can select my server role. Now, Hyper-V is going to be a server role. The list is alphabetical. It's going to be approximately halfway down the list. And as we zoom in, we can see it right there between the host guardian service and the network controller. We're going to select that. We get our pop-up around adding features that are required for Hyper-V, a remote server admin tools, role administration tool, Hyper-V management tool sets are provided. We have to add those in to complete the installation. Microsoft's doing this to make sure we get the right resources. We have no issues, no missed dependencies and/or issues that would lead to Hyper-V not working. This is all good. We're going to click Add Features. That selection's already been made on the following screen where features will be available. Hyper-V is there. Now, we have to wait a second. We might see that bar. Let's just going across the top here for a minute with a little red X. Nothing wrong, by the way. We didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, everything is just perfect. But what was happening is that the system was checking the prerequisite configuration, making sure we meet the requirements to install Hyper-V. In this case, since this is a virtual machine, have we enabled nested virtualization? Well, we got a big check mark next to that one because we've just done that through PowerShell, or at least you can do that now because you know how to. And as a result, that pre-configuration check comes back and allows me to now get some additional menu options that I'm going to have to move through to configure Hyper-V, setting up virtual switches, migration, for live migration, and as you can see, default stores, and then confirmation and ultimately installation. So let's take a look at what happens from here. We'll click Next, and you'll see we have our feature area. We don't have to make any selections. As you remember, we were just told, hey, install these features. We said yes. Microsoft's done all that for us. When we come down here, we can see evidence of that under Remote Server Administration Tools. We open that up under Role Service Administration Tools, and you'll see under the Hyper-V Management Tools area that they're already selected for us. Microsoft did all that. All we need to do is simply keep going. If we don't know where they are, or we do, doesn't matter. It's already configured for us. We'll click Next. We get a little overview screen explaining what Hyper-V is, things to be aware of. We're good with all that. You can certainly read that on your own. Then we have to choose how we're going to enable and bind our network adapter or adapters to the virtual switches that will be created. So we're going to go ahead and click that to enable that binding. And then we'll go ahead and click Next. We then have to deal with how migration will take place so that live migrations can be supported if we choose to use them in the Hyper-V configuration. That's up to us. And you'll see that we then have to choose how we're going to use authentication, and specifically what authentication protocol will be used. Are we using what's called CRED SSP, or Credential Security Support Provider? That is the default, by the way. And or are we going to go ahead and use Kerberos? Kerberos is more secure and requires a little bit of additional configuration, so it's up to us to decide. We can select between either of those. It's up to us depending on what's supported and how we want to do this. You'll notice when I check off allow this server to send or receive live migrations, that enables the use of live migration. Then I can change that selection. If I choose not to do this, we're not enabling the feature right now. I can always go back and turn it on later after I configure it. Totally up to me. And then I don't have to worry about the selection that I make there because it's not going to be used until we start to support live migration. So we'll leave that off for right now. We're not going to worry about that. We'll click Next. We have our default locations for both our virtual hard drive files as well as our virtual machine configuration files. You can accept the defaults or modify them. Totally up to you. Browse at the at the far right-hand corner allows you to make a change if you choose to. We're then going to click Next. We get our confirmation of what's about to happen. We can restart if necessary automatically. We get our prompt to be able to do that. And so we just want to hit yes there. And then we can go ahead and we can click install. Now I'm going to actually not restart automatically on this one just to show you what's going on, but you'll see we can go through the install here. Once we are done, remember, installs may take a little bit of time, maybe 30 seconds, several minutes, depending on the nature of the services, the roles, the features we're installing, how complicated they may be, and if there's a whole bunch of supporting and dependencies, supporting characters and dependencies we have to deal with, it may take several minutes. So you're going to have to be patient with it. Usually we'll jump to the 3/4, maybe halfway to 3/4 mark fairly quickly. And then from there, hopefully fairly soon, finish up its configuration. Once this is done, we can actually then go in and open up the Hyper-V Manager, and it will look exactly like it did in Windows 11, except it's now running on my virtual machine in Server 2022. Now you'll see here, feature installation complete, but a restart is pending. I know this particular installation requires a restart in order to finalize, but we're running a virtual machine. We don't want to restart the VM, have it pop out of the window, and have to wait for it to come back up in order simply to log back in to see this. But I'm just showing you that that is the case. We're going to click close. We're going to go ahead and minimize this. And what we're going to do is the following. I'm going to restart the VM just to show you that it will come up and be ready to go, but it's going to take a couple of minutes. So what we're going to do is start that process. We're going to speed that up using what we call YouTube magic. You're not going to see it all happen. You're just going to see us come back and it's going to be ready to go. But keep your seatbelts fastened, keep your arms inside the ride at all times. And remember, in the real world, when you do this, it'll take just a couple of minutes for the restart to take place. All right, so we're back, everybody. Poof, YouTube magic, everything is good. All you missed was about 2 to 3 minutes worth of restart. Remember, you'll see some configuration going on. The system is adding those features for Hyper-V and configuring the role. And as a result, it's going to do a couple of things. You'll get back to the logon prompt. You'll log in, get your server manager back up and running. We spared you all of that. And now you can see that we've got a Hyper-V shortcut in our navigation bar right there, indicating the Hyper-V role has been installed. If we click, we'll see that it looks like everything seems to be good. We can right-click right here, and we can actually choose to load the Hyper-V Manager right from here, or we can go up to the Tools menu, the upper right-hand corner, do the same thing. Let's just open that up just so you can see that indeed we did really install Hyper-V. And sure enough, we have our Hyper-V Manager running on our server as a virtual machine using nested virtualization. And if we wanted to, we could right-click, create a brand new virtual machine, or anything else we want to do with Hyper-V is available to us all right here, just like it would be, in my case, running on Windows 11, where I created the Hyper-V virtual machine that we're working with, and we use nested virtualization to make this additional installation and configuration of Hyper-V possible. So there you have it, the ability to install Hyper-V, but with a twist, using nested virtualization. Not necessarily the traditional way you would do this, probably not the way you would do this going into production, but guess what? Certainly important if you want to be able to use Hyper-V, if you're going to be studying for exams, want to practice those hands-on skills, or whatever it is you're looking to do, now you know how to get the job done. I'm going to go get ready for more fun and exciting opportunities and conversations to show you how to optimize your Windows Server experience. But until I come back with another one, I'm going to wish you happy servering, and I'll see you soon.